Good
Yeah.
morning.
Hi.
So wonderful for you to grace us with your presence before mid-noon.
Celine and I trying to get a time for this is hilarious because we are women with boundaries around our calendar, and she's in Europe and I'm in Austin, and we're like, well, I don't work before 10 and I don't work after 5, and we're like, okay, we're gonna make this work.
We're gonna need to compromise somewhere here, somewhere in between.
We did it. Where are
We
you,
did.
by the way, exactly?
I'm in Ibiza.
Amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we got a bunch of people hopping on live, and I was just giving a little introduction of our topic today, which is just going to be all things money and how we've changed as stewards of wealth as we've been making more money. And I was saying, we're two women who are no strangers to making $100,000 a month in our business and wielding some big resources. And basically, Celine and I were having a really amazing WhatsApp back and forth, like sending each other mini podcasts and bonding over like all of these things with money. And we're like, we should do a live on this. This is really juicy. More women need to hear this. So here we are.
No, I agree. Let's do it. Let's podcast this into an Instagram live.
Boom. Celine, do you want to introduce yourself for the people who are watching you from my audience who might not be familiar with your genius? And everyone go follow this woman. She's incredible.
Yes, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Celine DaCosta is my last name. I'm a master coach. I specialize in subconscious reprogramming. I work with leaders to really support them to rewrite their story of success and performance from the inside out, so that when they go out there and, create the money, create the influence, create the impact, they're doing it from a very soul aligned space. So that's what I do. And I help people tell their story from that place.
Woo! So good. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Elena Ray. I'm a business strategist for online entrepreneurs, primarily people who are in the personal development space, authors, thought leaders, healers, and I help lots of people grow and scale their online businesses. So this isn't really a podcast. We're not like, one of us is not interviewing the other. We're just going to jam out and we're not even sure where this is exactly going to go, but we're two minds that we love to think deeply about money. We love to think deeply about business and life. How does one get in touch with you guys? You can follow us on Instagram right here. I think I'll just pick up with what I remember of our conversation and what had me being like, oh, this is really juicy, is I know from my side, I've made millions in my business at this point, which is a crazy thing to say out loud still to this day, because 4 years ago I was living off of corporate savings and being a nomad and had no money to my name. I had invested everything I had in a coach and a business and was just giving this everything I had and just hoping that I could really get by and live in Bali and travel and do the things that I love to do. But I've noticed as someone who's the first generation of, and I don't know if this is true in your story, as someone who's a first generation self-made millionaire in my family, no one else has gone to college, no one else has run a business. It took a lot to understand how to wield this money. And I think a lot of people are still having the conversation on Instagram of how do we make the money and how do we sell more people into our offers? And it's okay, but the next level conversation is, what do you do with it once you have it that is going to set you up for intergenerational wealth? That's going to set you up to, be this truly wealthy woman or man in the world. And I was just being really brutally honest with you about some of the mistakes that I've made as kind of coming out of the gate and being woo, money for the first time, big money for the first time, woo, abundance. And we were kind of making fun of some of the woo abundance vibe on Instagram, and then going ooh, and now it's changed. The game has changed. How I think about money has changed a lot. So yeah, I'll just pause there and see what you want to add in terms of setting the vibe for this.
Yeah, I mean, my story is it's same but different. Where I grew up in an environment where we were middle upper class, and then when my stepfather walked out on my family, we went from being middle upper to lower income, struggling to get by. and in a town that was like quite wealthy. And so I remember like from my teenagehood, early adolescence, my life was marked with like, okay, we got to do something here. Like I need to hustle. I need to work really hard. I got my first job when I was 14 years old. And it was just a immigrant family. I'm not from the US. I immigrated here when I was 10, here, there, where you are, not where I am. When I was 10. And I remember like having this like positioning of the American dream, and I need to work really hard, and I need to make it, and I need to like make it into corporate. And then coming from a place of, oh shoot, like what do we do? Like we're immigrants, like we need to get by, we need to like make ends meet. And going into just working, I remember, all through high school I was working like 30+ hour weeks, plus going to school full time, and then I went to university. And so my adolescence and young adulthood was really marked by this, like, okay, if I want money, I need to like work really hard to earn it, and I am gonna struggle to like make ends meet. And so I just need to roll up my sleeves, get it done, and go. And then, fast forwarding to today, similar to what you were saying, where it's just like I'm coming from this context of there's never enough. And if I do, I need to work really hard in a certain way that's like taking up all my day. And then all of a sudden I start to work, and then I start to have open days on my calendar. And then you start to work with that like spaciousness and that flexibility. And then more money's coming in, and you're like, where do I just stuff more into my savings? Like what do I do with this? Like now that it's like not just me like meeting my basic ends, like what do I do with this? And it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, right? Because a lot of people would be listening being like, oh, I'll tell you what to do with it. Like donate it to charity and do it this way. And like, you should do this, you should do that. And also dealing with the pressure of everyone else's projections as to like where the money needs to go has been really interesting. But what, back to like our what's up conversation that we were having, there was this moment where it clicked for me, where I realized that, okay, I'm putting a lot into savings right now because I'm earning way more than what I actually need to live. But this thing is actually sitting there, what's the word in English? Depreciating, is that the word? Going down by inflation, 7 to 9% every year. And I was like, wait, is it just me, everyone, or is this like nonsense? This does not make sense to me. And that is when I got into investing. So I'll pause there. We're just tossing the ball, but that's when I realized there's another way, there's something else. I got to do something else, because otherwise it's disrespectful to this energy to just sit there and depreciate after all my hard work,
Right. Yeah. And I love this word, actually, like speaking about respect. And I think that the people who wind up wielding a lot of wealth in their life are people who have respect for what money can bring you, what it's capable of, and yield it. I keep saying yield. It's like this really like taking ownership of it in this way that's like, I'm a steward of this. And I think, yeah, similar to you, I was just so taken aback by my coaching business taking off when it took off, and like the kind of money that I was seeing that was, in 1 month or sometimes 2 weeks, I would make more than my parents ever made in an entire year combined. And my dad was a construction worker. We grew up in a, blue collar type of a neighborhood and setting, and being like, whoa, this is a lot to manage. And I think that the difference for me, at least, has been like at the beginning, it's like, okay, it's abundant for me to just spend for convenience, or spend on team, or spend on like all this kinds of support, because I can. All of a sudden it's like these things that were out of reach before for my entire life, and I never thought I would have them, are suddenly accessible. And there's like okay, great, let's play. Let us play. Let us have the things, and like, buy the house and buy the bag and hire all the people. And I think what I didn't expect to happen is this recalibration after like the first million. I would say the way I spent my first million has been very different than how I spent my second and how I'm spending my third. And the like, oh, just because I can doesn't mean I should. And I need to be extremely careful of the respect that I show for money, and not wasting, and not just doing things because I can, but really thinking about what is the long-term value of the decisions I'm making with my dollars. And yes, also getting really great wealth advisors to come on board, like just a little too late. I was like, oh, I should have had this, maybe 6 months sooner, 12 months sooner, but better late than never. And let me tell you, there's nothing better than getting like your average American Joe, like in his 50s, who just like works with high net worth individuals somewhere in, the middle of America, to be like, damn girl, like I have not seen margins this good, or I have not seen people your age like doing this kind of money. You are doing something right. Like, thank you for saying that. That's very validating. But kind of that, and I'm happy to go into specifics and share about, some of the things that was like too much woo. Let me just, kind of not look at, let's say, if there was an extra $10 delivery fee on something, being like, no, that would be beneath me at this point to like look at that or challenge that. Or if I'm like paying a bit extra, like, $500 extra for a team member where maybe that was like the salary was too high there or something, like not worrying about it. And then all of a sudden, as I matured in my money journey, and worry is not the right word here, but it's like I made it my business to know where all those little pieces of my money are going. Because yes, once you get into that investment mindset, you see like, whoa, well, that $500 compounded in the fund where I'm getting like 8 to 10%. That's a better use of my money now. And not being afraid to be that person who has the money, but also will like look at something or challenge something and like really tighten up the ship so that you're not leaking. And I think there were parts of my journey where I was leaking a bit, and I think we were jamming on that too.
Yeah, big time. And it's interesting because I work with people in all kinds of, I work with people who are as new as just starting a business to people who have $150 million companies and everything in between. And so one of the gifts of that is really being able to see that when it comes to our relationship with money and our mindset around money, like it doesn't really matter where you are, like the context of the problem or the context of the challenge that you're facing shifts and changes according to what level you're playing at. But the patterns don't really, like the subconscious patterns that are playing out in the background still are the same. And what I mean by that is that you could have like, be making $50,000 a year and you're very concerned about the $3 latte, or you could be making 100 million and you're very concerned about like an investment that is, 100,000, which would be a drop in the bucket comparatively, but it's still of significance. And one of the things that I've been learning, and I'm by no means like perfect or a master at this yet, but one of the humbling lessons that I've been facing is really understanding that just because I have it doesn't mean I need to, like you said, spend it frivolously and actually not pay attention to the energetics of what's happening with that money. And what I mean by that is, for example, if somebody is trying to take advantage of me in a situation, and I'm like, oh, whatever, like I have the money, it's only 10 extra dollars, so why, like it doesn't matter. It's not about the $10. It's actually about the energetics of somebody trying to sell me something that is not in right relationship with the value, and me accepting that, which then creates a leak, which then it basically creates a fissure. Is that the word in English? The more I'm out of America, the more I forget words. That it creates like a line that then starts to like open itself up. And this is a really silly example, but I remember being like somewhere in Bali, and I was at a market, and this woman's selling me a sarong, and I'm like, she's selling it to me, and I can feel something's off, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I just went like, whatever, it's $2, like screw it. And I got it, and then the next day someone told me that actually the sarongs like sell for like $3 less to everyone, and she like had sold it to me like that because I was a tourist. And in that way, it's not actually about the money, it's about the fact that I was being treated like not in right relationship to like what would be a fair exchange because of the way that I look, or the way that I am, the way that I act. Now that's a small like travel scenario, but I'm sure you've had these moments where you hired contractors or you hired people, and it's like, oh, it's only $500 a month for this thing. Like, it's a small thing. Oh, whatever, they didn't do it, or like they made it worse and someone else has to fix it, but whatever, it's only $500. But it isn't, because it's about like being in right relationship and being in reverence with the energy of money, and understanding that this is a powerful energy, And, you know, the work, the consciousness that, and the energy and the effort that I invest in providing a service of value, it meets me with the energy that we call money. And then when I choose where to redirect this energy, whether it's by hiring somebody or purchasing a thing, or investing it somewhere, I'm actually choosing where this energy goes. And that makes me responsible, and that makes me a steward. And as if I'm further endorsing people or things that are not in right relationship, that are like then going off and screwing over more people or taking advantage of more situations, or like if I'm indulging in energetics that are like corrupted, then it's not actually about the money or that I can afford it. It's about perpetuating the cycle of people like engaging, exchanging corrupted energy. This got a little astral, but hopefully I know this is your gift to like whoop, bring it back down, but hopefully I see you're nodding, so you're getting what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, loving this. I think everyone on here, like, give us some love in the comments if you're loving where we're going with this. But yes, I think, and I just really want to point this out for those of you who are making more money, increasing your wealth, and also like, you know, figuring out how do you use it and what is going to be your right relationship with this increased money that you've brought into your life. Because I think there's such a difference between how you might look at that, like, the $3 latte is kind of a funny example, but something like that, like when you're just starting out and you're kind of in survival mood and you're like, you know, just this really shifted my money goals, by the way, for everyone, when I stopped kind of calculating like, okay, I need this much for rent and I need this much for food, and like this is what I need to kind of like make it, and trying to aim for like around that kind of level of income. But I think there's the like it really comes from this place of survival and scarcity, and it's not a great frequency to be in when you're like, I'm not going to have the $3 latte, because it's coming from that place. But once you're more established in who you are with money, you can look at, hey, I'm not, like, there's been times where I've been in New York City or something and I've ordered a latte and it's like $12. And I'm like, all right, well, obviously I'm going to pay it now, but I'm not going back here. And because it's not from a place of like, I'm in survival or I'm in scarcity or there's not going to be another $12 coming. It's from, no, I really value who I am as a producer of value in society, and I value the money I've received, and I'm so smart that I know the places that I can go to compound and to do better, and that's what I want to choose. And so I'm not going to do things that are frivolous. I'm going to do things that are very intentional. So it can kind of look like the same, like cutting back, or, you know, I did this, for anyone watching, Rocket Money has an app that you can go on and you put in all your subscriptions. I'm forgetting exactly what it's called. The founder was at Summit, and I got to watch a talk by him. He's incredible. He sold it for $1 billion. You can go in this app and you put in all your bank accounts and it pulls your subscriptions. And inevitably, everyone finds something that you're subscribed to that you're like, wait, I didn't know I was paying for that. And I found many of those. So here I am, multi-millionaire, calling up Spotify and being like, I've got 2 accounts on here and I need to cancel one. And it's from an energy of like, no, I will not be fucked around with my money. I'm going to take this seriously. And it was like a period of time where I really elevated into like, I'm cleaning up my field. I'm closing in all of these little holes or all these little places where, yeah, maybe things were going into different energetics that were careless, or just were like, well, I'm too busy to manage that or look at that, or it's not important. And actually I leveled up when I realized, yes, it is important. And yes, I do want to have this level of care for what I've created.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. And you know, it's you're also helping me think about, and I remember we talked about this as well on WhatsApp, like one of the things I've been also doing is just getting more, slowing down and getting more intentional about each and every expense. And also like when it translates to business, the subscriptions that I'm in, like what do we actually need and what is like just a nice to have that I don't actually isn't really moving the needle forward. And the more intentional I've been getting with this as well, I've been looking, for example, at each of my team members and really understanding like, how are you using your time? Like, how are these things like actually coming back and like producing and creating for the business? And where are you just, you know, doing things that aren't necessary, maybe they're busy tasks that were passed down by another team member, but aren't actually going to be necessary. And I think what's really important to discern, and this is something I've really needed to slow down and get intentional with in my journey, is where's that line between going back into scarcity mindset, and rather than like being in that respectful reverence and stewardship that we're referring to, because I'm sure that, you know, you felt this as well. There's been many times where I'm like, oh, well, wait a minute, like, why is it that I'm not getting the $12 latte right now? Like, is it coming from a place of like, do I really, really want it? And I'm not allowing myself to have it because I judge it as expensive. Or is it something that the taste isn't going to be better than something else that I can find for half of the price? And there's these moments where I just, where it takes a lot of discipline and awareness to understand that, no, this isn't me operating out of scarcity. This is me making a choice out of respect for you know, my finances, and out of respect for the business that I'm wielding, that is not just me anymore. And I think that's a huge shift as well when you go from solopreneur to, you know, entrepreneur. And one of the things that I learned as well is that there comes a point, you know, I remember I went out to dinner with someone like a couple months ago, and they're like, oh, just put it on your company card. And I'm like, this is a personal dinner. I'm not doing that, you know? And it was like this moment. And then he said to me, oh, that's really clean. And I'm like, it is really clean. I'm not, this is not like, you know, there's some things, you know, when it comes to expenses where you can say like, yeah, we're technically talking about business, so this is a business dinner. But in this moment, it was a personal dinner. And so I'm not going to, you know, go and put something on the card on the company and burden the company because of my personality, because of my ego or my individual needs. And so there's also a shift that comes when you're looking at, you know, for me, I can speak to my experience because I know like, I do want to be a mother. And like, for me, when I'm thinking about, you know, the $500 that's going into my investment account and compounding at like, you know, 15 to 20% every year, I'm actually thinking about my legacy that I'm leaving behind to my family. I'm thinking about, well, this is actually a lot of compounded little expenses that then compound over the years and become like the wealth legacy that I'm going to be leaving behind. For it's bigger than me. It's not just about me. And so in that way, I can start to see that when we're looking at these small expenses, the Spotify account, or everything else, like that's just it's a metaphor. Like all of the little ways that we have extra Spotify accounts like floating in our field, and how can we just like cut them out because we're not using them? They're not actually bringing us value, regardless of whether it's $5 or $500. It's not a match for the value that we need to be able to justify that energetic exchange. And we start to release, and then what that does, it creates spaciousness for more money to flow in. So I'll pause there, but those are my thoughts around that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like when I went into that energy of let me clean things up, and this has matched very well with the Venus retrograde in Leo season, where I also was like on sabbatical and then just kind of like cleaning up things in the back end of my business of like upgrading our accounting and upgrading our legal practices and upgrading certain, like, you know, I had an extra business credit card and I was like, why do I need two? I need my Amex Platinum. Like, that's it. Let me cancel the other one, pay it off, and like cut it up. And just little things like this, like tightening those things up, has, even in the last couple of weeks, been like boom, boom, boom. So many amazing opportunities and people and new money and new investment opportunities and like things moving with our property in Bali, and so much positive movement upwards in wealth for me occurred when I was like, let's tighten this up. I would actually love to jam on. I think we've like really conveyed this point really well. I'd love to share about like what is the biggest mistake maybe you've made with money since starting to earn at a high level, and what's the best thing that you've spent on money?
Mm-hmm.
I'll start. I think so many mistakes, and this kind of
I was about to say one mistake. Are you kidding me?
I know.
No, let me pick.
Should we have an entire podcast season?
Mistakes. Yep.
Oh my God. If you guys wind up loving this live and you want Celine and I to do a follow-up where we talk more about our mistakes with money, please let us know, because that could be
just so many. A book. I could write a book.
Maybe we should.
Also.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go on a little sidebar of something that maybe people don't really think about with money, but I would say one of the mistakes that I made early on was thinking that, and this is going to be different for everyone in everyone's business, but really not understanding that separation between me and my business with cash flow and needing that to be immaculate. Like, I would, at the early stages of, I was just trying to start making it as a coach, and someone would pay me, $3,500 for like my first 3-month package or whatever. And I would take that money and then I would just go spend it. There was no separation of like, oh, this is actually money that came into the business and it sits in the business. And then there's like, I get a payout once there's enough money in the cash balances of the company. And then at the end of the year, after we take care of our expenses and our taxes and we tidy up all the things, then the owner gets like a big payout also when all contracts have been successfully fulfilled and all of this stuff. I could also do a podcast just on this, but I didn't have that concept. I was like, someone's paying me. And it's like, no, it is a business. And once you're making millions of dollars, that practice needs to be very, very, very tight, because how you get to run a $10 million, $20 million company is by doing this stuff from the very beginning. I always tell my clients, like, treat your business now like it's a $1 million company, and it will be. And once you have a $1 million company, treat it like it's a $10 million company. But I think some of my biggest mistakes were around that and not understanding like what's the level of appropriate cash reserves to have in your business and in your personal life, and how to be using those expenses come up or things happen, or you want to let go of a client, you want that cash to be like, here's your refund, I'm letting you go, or whatever. You want that flexibility and dynamicism to manage the business and not feel strapped. So that's the whole thing. But I would say that was one of my biggest mistakes. And the second would be overspending on real estate. I think I was in the like, oh, I'm so excited, I found my dream home in Bali, let me go and like buy it and build it. And it, had I actually had an accountant look at everything that we projected to have or what we had at the moment, I would have made a different decision around that investment. And it's all going to work out, it's all going to be fine, but I felt the reverberations of overspending on, and I think it's really important for anyone considering investing in property. It's a great place to invest. I definitely plan on being in the real estate game forever now that I'm in. But have a third party look at what you're bringing into your business and what's in your personal accounts and advise you on what is the amount of money you can spend on a home. How much should you mortgage? How much should you pay in cash? And get that counsel and listen to it. And don't stretch yourself. Don't overstretch yourself with the spending early on. So I'll pause though. There's like, 2 big ones for me.
Yeah. I definitely feel that. I just got an apartment in Bali. I just bought an apartment in Bali, and I feel that like it's the thing around overzealous spending, I think is one of my biggest mistakes, where it's like I just saw all of this tidal wave of just cash flow coming in, and then being like, I'm gonna put it in all the investments, and like, here, Bitcoin, take some, and like other investment account, take some too. Oh, investment property, here you go. You want cash? Here's a whole load of cash, and then all of a sudden, like even this just actually even today, I got a message because, well, number one, Bali, they say it's gonna be ready by this date, so you're projecting that you're gonna start monetizing. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, I bought this in January. It will start being on Airbnb by July, because they said it would be done by March. It's September. It's not done yet, And then that projection, then being like, oh my God. And then getting a message today being like, oh yeah, by the way, we need $10,000 for all the furniture you committed to. And I'm like, I was not anticipating this expense this month. And this like almost, I think, because you and I are both very intuitive and we're going with the flow and we're like channelers and we're going with the universe. I'm like, yeah, universe has always got my back. And it does. And there's really so much value in planning. Sometimes, most times, like there's really these moments like right in these now where it's just thinking about, hey, they said this thing, but it's like when you are always late. I'm one of those people that's, unfortunately, I'm working on this, like perpetually not on time. And I'm like, let me allot for 1 hour, because I said 30 minutes. Let me just give myself the cushion of time for me to actually show up on time. So I need to get ready. Like, if I think it's going to take 30 minutes, I need to double it. And for me, it's the same thip with investing and with like money management, where you think the project's going to take 2 months in a business, like just give yourself 4. And if you go faster, amazing. If you don't, then you're like taken care of. And so I think that aspect of projecting into the future was a big old puzzle piece that was missing for me, where, I have a really beautiful diversified portfolio, but it's one thing to, like you were saying, cash reserves, and to know that when I put everything in investments, then you need cash flow, and you're like, oh, all my cash flow is like generating income right now. I don't want to take it out, and then it hurts to pull it if you need to. So I think that it's having that clean balance of, here's my cash reserve for Celine the individual, here's the cash reserve for the business, and then here's all the investments, and like, this is what feels good and safe in my body. And I think that I was just a little too like, yeah, just put some there, yeah, put some over there, yeah, pay it full, and it was just like, woohoo, dollars for everyone kind of energy, which is great, and also like can definitely use some masculine structure. And then let's see, what other big mistakes. I would say it was like saying yes to, for example, just hiring a lot of people, hiring a lot of contractors, and just having all these things that I wanted to do, and not organizing them into phases. Like phase one, let's like do this project and bring in these people, but all of a sudden my business grew, and it's like, okay, let's get a graphic designer, yeah, put them on retainer, and let's get this person, yeah, put them on retainer too, like we'll need them all the time, right? And then all of a sudden you have months where you don't need them, and you're like, should this have been a project-based thing? So it's that overspending, and then creating like really high monthly operational expenses that, if and this is the natural flow of a business, is sometimes it dips, and then it goes up a lot, and then maybe it's like the same. Like sometimes there's these dips, and our work as entrepreneurs is to make sure that the dips are not extreme, but when the dip is lower, then the operational costs are high. It just creates a lot of stress, and then my work is to learn how to manage that stress, and then it just creates a whole other can of worms of like, okay, now I'm stressed, and now I need to learn how to become the person who believes in myself, which I'm happy to do, but that plus this is a lot. So I would say the overwhelm as well would be one of my mistakes.
Yeah. And I think that balance of what's the right margin in our business to be spending on team and expenses, and what's the appropriate margin that we want to have as net at the end of the day. And this is why, for anyone who's working with either Celine or I, like, you're getting whatever we're selling you, and all of this lived wisdom of women who know how to manage their wealth, because we've been down the path, we've made the mistakes, we've made the money, we've gotten the expert help, we've learned the hard way, and we get to pass that on to the people that we serve. I love like getting to have this conversation. Whoever's listening or whoever's working with us in our field, we're like saving them from going down these paths and eating up huge margins of their business, or not phasing the installation of their team, or not knowing about really good investments, or not knowing about the best accounting practices for business. So I love that we're talking about that. Let's bring us home with, what was the best thing that we've spent money on? What would you say is your
Oh, wow. That's a really nice question. The best thing I've spent money on. Oh man, one of them is going to be quite controversial, but I don't give a shit. Business class tickets, lifesavers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know there's so many controversial opinions about business class. I don't care. It is of value to me. Like, for me to sleep at the rate at which I traveled, for me to sleep horizontally, like with how much I travel overnight, is absolutely a game changer. And so business class would be one of the best ways that I love to spend my money. Other best expenses, I would say, I'm really proud of myself for buying that apartment in Bali cash. I think, like, I don't know if I can say it's the best purchase I've ever made yet, because we need to see what the results are. But I feel really like, in this moment in time, I'm feeling really hopeful and grateful and just excited that that's something that I've done and I'm doing, and that's something that I'm like going through. As a woman and as a businesswoman, I just think that's really cool. I'm really proud of myself, basically. And what else have I spent money on that that best thing? Honestly, just my mentorship. I'm so flanked. I'm so supported by what I believe are some of the best people in the game. And the fact that I'm able to be in a position financially where I can compensate these incredible human beings to help me with regulating my nervous system, with mastering my energy body, with understanding business, and the courses that I'm able to buy. Like I can, anything I want to learn better, I can either purchase the course or find the person who will teach it to me personally. And I love this way of like accelerating my way through life and learning the codes faster so I can like enjoy my life more. So I would say that those are the best things that that I've spent my money on lately.
Oh, I love those. I'll definitely second the business class. That's I like a serious thing that we've spent money on than like things that are like more fun that we've spent our money on that we're like, that is valuable to me. My fun one has definitely been my wardrobe. I hired a stylist. I think you did too. You had, stylist support. And I think upgrading my personal appearance in that way was so meaningful for me personally because I grew up wearing secondhand clothes and not, having the Abercrombie shirts that the other kids had and always feeling less than in that area. And it's such a, like when I went through a personal transformation where I felt freaking amazing on the inside, I'm like, I want to look as amazing on the outside. And it's an investment, when you know how to pick quality pieces and have good items that are going to last a long time in your wardrobe. For me, it's like one of my greatest joys to get dressed every day when I'm like, I have my dream wardrobe and I've always wanted this. And like, this is so worth it to me for all the work I've put into my business. It'd be one of the fun things. And then serious things. Yeah, I think the investment funds and bringing on a wealth advisor right after I made my first million, because I was like, okay, I'm like gonna need help, and getting world-class support. I'm like, here's where we recommend putting it in here, and here's how we diversify, and that knowing that I'm able to retire early in this life, and even though I'll probably never really retire because I want to keep creating, it's like, oh, that's the ultimate security of knowing I'm being set up for that. And my Bali house, as much as a nightmare it's been, as much as it was such an irresponsible purchase out of the gate, and going back, I don't know if I would have done it, at least in the same way that I did it today. I think for me, it's been like the mastery of a new industry of like getting to get, maybe not say mastery, let's say trial by fire, let's say initiation. I've gotten initiated into another industry that has taught me a lot as a businesswoman, that I really value my craft as a businesswoman and being able to be in so many different industries and succeed. So as much as it's like, oh my God, when my staff tell me like, we need to make a $12,000 repair on the roof and it's only 3 years old, I'm like, oh, all right, fine. But ultimately that thing will double in value from when I bought it. So it's not been easy, but it's totally been worth it. And yeah, I can't wait to extend my portfolio and buy another house, but this time like way more responsibly, with way more projection into the future, with way better cash reserves, with way better everything. Yeah. Anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
I would say like what it really ultimately, if we just like were to tie a bow around this, it's around growing and evolving our relationship with the energy of money, and understanding that, one of the things I also teach in my work is that money is a neutral energy source. It's neutral. It's got nothing against you. And so whenever you're having any issues with money or any mistakes, like all it's there to do is mirror back to you your own patterning and your own belief system around, energy exchange, around finances, around this energy of money is really just a way similar to love. It's just a way for us to, well, love is not just a way, right? Let me retract that. Love is like everything. But the point being is that like relationships are a vessel for you to be able to like see yourself and meet yourself and understand like what's going on in your internal world and resolve it within yourself so you can live life like more on purpose, more gracefully, more joyfully. And money does this very similar thing where you look at it and it's like, okay, what's happening here? And so in my work, and again, I'm not saying this from a place of being a complete embodied master, because I know there's still so much work for me in this department, and I get to grow so much more in this. But it's really around like, how do I choose to relate to this energy? And what I'm being shown right now that is very much in alignment to what I choose is that if I'm going to call it in and ask for it to come in my life more and more and more. I choose to be responsible for it, and not responsible in the like, oh my God, this is all, the world is resting on my shoulders and I'm going to go into stress response. Like, not that kind of responsible, but literally the word responsible, like the ability to respond. There is this energies coming my way, and I am growing my ability to respond to this energy in a way that is going to allow this energy to multiply itself, to nourish and sustain me in my life, and to nourish and sustain the collective at the extent and level at which I desire and choose to serve. And so in that way, like, money gets to, I get to be a vessel, and I get to be a vehicle through which money flows. And it's really empowering and incredible feeling to know that I get to like decide, you go here, you go there, you go there. And the more I endorse the energetics of being in right relationship with the planet, with myself, with the people around me, the more that money gets to flow in that way, and the more that money actually gets to be for the good. And so I'm a very imperfect student of this, but I think like if there's anything I would want somebody to listen to and take away, is really asking the question, what is your relationship with money? And what do you choose for your relationship to be? What do you desire? What do you aspire for? And then go one step further and ask why. Like, what is this for? Because I know for myself, money's not just about being rich and having a Lamborghini and having a really nice car, but it's one of the ways that I get to be of service in this lifetime. And I also like love nice things, and I get to love nice things. So they both exist in my paradigm of reality.
Ow! Oh my God, could not have said it better. So good. It's just ditto everything that Celine just said on that. And yeah, I think just to really wrap it up is like, you know, I work with, and you work with a lot of people who want to increase their income. They want to have more money, and, you know, working on many different aspects of themselves in order to have it. And I think having an understanding of wealth and having a clean energy around it from the beginning, and implementing some of the best practices that you can possibly have from the beginning. Like, even if people are watching this who don't have a business yet and they're on the track of just wanting to start one, it's like, get in this vibe now, see money this way now. Or if you're at 6 figures and you want to go to 7, start thinking like a millionaire, get in conversations like these with women like us. And yes, I'll also second, I forgot to say that before, of like, best use of my money has been mentorship. Like, I have 300x to the first investment I made in my first business coach, who taught me everything about how to market and sell and show up and think of myself as a businesswoman. And all of the mentors who have been by my side, it was like, take my money, take more of my money. Like, this was so worth it. And the best investment, of course, you make is in yourself as the human who, like, no matter what happens with any industry that we're a part of, we are the wealth. We are able to generate forever because of who we are and how we show up. So that would be my little advice to people, is like, implement all of this way sooner. Treat your business, even if you don't have a business, treat it like it's $1 million business, like you are a millionaire coming into fruition, and you're going to be set. So, oh my God, this was so fun. I love doing this with you.
Good jams.
Thank you everyone who came on live and joined us, or if you watched the replay, hashtag replay for us in the comments, and add Celine, follow me if you're watching me on hers. And yeah, we talk about this stuff all the time in our respective ways, in our respective worlds, and come follow along with us. And bye guys. Sending you so much love. Thank you. Bye.